Today we'll talk about beautiful, fragrant, and colorful type of orchid, one of my favorite genera, with some of others that create the Oncidium and Intergeneric alliance. If you want an orchid that will bloom for you probably more than once a year and will grow many roots and leaves and will be able to spike and create thousands of tiny flowers, this video is for you. And also if you like the large, colorful flowers, this video is also for you because inside the Intergenerics we have a huge diversity of blooms. To start, let's talk about Oncidiums. That's why I have this built-in bloom here and I want to showcase because it tells a lot about this video. Oncidium is a large genera that has more than 400 species spread in the America continent. So from South America to Central America and also maybe until Mexican, we have so many different species of Oncidiums, commonly known as the dancing lady, because if you look at some of its flowers, you can see ballerina dancing. At least I can see it. I hope you can see it as well. They are epiphytes, some of them are lithophytes, and we have also terrestrial types of Oncidium. So it's very difficult for me to give you a full care tutorial since we have Oncidiums growing on top of mountains with cooler temperatures. We have Oncidiums that are more adapted to warm temperatures. So when you acquire your Oncidium, the first thing that you have to do is research a little bit about it. And then you find what's the appropriate care in case you grab one of the species. But this video today is not about all of the species of Oncidiums. I would never be able to cover these in a video. We'll talk a little bit more about Oncidium and Intergenerics because they are available and affordable, especially here in the UK and Europe. I know that you can find them in garden centers, in flower shops, also in orchid nurseries. Oncidiums and Intergenerics are Oncidiums, the genera Oncidium, that it's crossed with other genera of orchids they are close to it, such as Miltonias, Brassias, Odontioides. So when you cross these genera of orchids, you create hybrids, man-made hybrids. They're called, they're famous, known by Oncidium Intergenerics Alliance. The ones that we find spread in garden centers, flower shops, usually they are easier to look after. However, if you know the parents of that hybrid, it's really good for you to do a little bit of research. So we cover the base of it and how I look after mine. For me, these are the easiest orchid in my collection because they adapt so well to the London weather, especially to my flat. London weather, considering they are treated as houseplants. That's how I grow mine. And I have intermediate temperature inside my house all year round. Not exactly extreme temperatures, not very hot either. So these plants, they do very well here. And I usually have lots of beautiful blooms. I will show you these blooms while I talk about these plants. I have this orange one now in bloom. Talking about Oncidiums, I have the cherry baby producing the second flower spike. And I have another Oncidium that's a color changing one between orange and pink. So not only they are fragrant, but they can also have different colors and patterns, which is amazing talking about blooming. And also they can bloom for you more than once a year. Most of them here, you find them in bloom when it's autumn or when it's spring. However, they can also produce flower spikes, depends on the hybrid, or during other seasons. I have Intergenerics blooming throughout the whole year, which is amazing. It means that we will always have some orchid in bloom. So let's talk about its care. The first thing that I will mention here is lighting. Talking about light, I read different information. There are some people that believe you need to offer high light to this plant. I would say they are towards the intermediate light. They are not adapted to low light such as Paphiopedilums and Phalaenopsis, but they are also not as resistant as Cattleyas and Dendrobium phalaenopsis, for example, to highlight. So you cannot expose them to super bright and direct light when it's summer and spring. You need to have some sheer curtains. You need to have something to filter the light. Under growing light, they usually do very well. But there are some growers that say that when you offer too much highlight, you may have some leaf tip dieback. They can become brown and start to become completely spotted, full of dots, like brown dots. That's one of the things that can happen when you offer too much light and also when you offer too little water. But I will come to that in a second. So that's the first thing, is if you offer some growing light or if you have a bright window, they can be near this bright window, but be careful with direct sunlight. That's the first tip that I'm going to give to you. The second thing is temperature. So these plants, again, most of them, they grow very well inside your home because they are adapted to intermediate temperature, which means that if you are comfortable in your home, these plants will be comfortable as well. You need to be careful with heating. When it's too hot, these plants, they lose water through their leaves very quickly. So it would be hard to keep up with the watering. You need to keep an eye on it when it's too hot. I don't think these plants are ideal for people that live in very, very hot environments. Only if you can keep up with its watering. I don't think they are finicky with humidity. There are people that would say otherwise. I have my heating on at the moment and I don't have any humidity trace or any humidifier, and my Oncidiums, my Intergenerics, they are all doing well. You need to keep an eye on its watering routine. So the next thing that I would say is about watering. These plants, as I said, they evaporate, they lose lots of water through transpiration. They have lots of roots, but very thin roots as well on top of that. They are not very adapted to dry environments, I would say. So when you see that the plant is approaching dryness, you should water it again. Don't let the pot completely dry. These plants, they don't enjoy it. They do have pseudobulbs. There are these round structures that they use to store water. They will store some water in there. However, they don't like drying out. Everything will become, the pseudobulbs will become shrink completely. You're gonna see all the wrinkles. The flowers want to last long and they become stressed. So if you wanna have healthy plants, remember to water it every time you see it's approaching dryness. That's very important. I think for me that's more important than humidity. If you do that with your Intergenerics, they will be healthy and they will be so happy with you. You should feed your Intergeneric all year round. I do feed mine all year round. When it's approaching spring, I tend to feed almost every week. When it's autumn to winter, I do feed it maybe 2 weeks a month. So it depends, because these plants, they don't stop growing vegetatively and maybe spiking and blooming. So you need to feed them accordingly. Use something that we use to feed all of your other orchids. And again, just because we just spoken about feeding and watering, it's very important for you to think about the potting mix that we use for these plants. I use bark and sphagnum moss for most of my orchids, and that's how I pot these plants. I tend to go with epiphyte mix because most of the most common hybrids, they will behave as epiphyte orchids, so they are not terrestrials or lithophytes, the majority, the ones that we find everywhere. And I have only common hybrids, so I will add a little bit more of sphagnum moss in my mix because these plants, they do enjoy their humidity and they don't like drying out. So I like to keep it evenly moist during almost the whole week. I don't let my Intergenerics and Oncidiums dry out completely. only if I'm going away or something is happening, but most of the time they are a little bit moist. And I see that they enjoy the moisture in their pots. That's how I achieve them growing so well and so healthily. However, there is an disadvantage to these plants. For me, there are two. There are some of the Oncidiums that you can find them, they are miniature, such as the Twinkle, which is amazing for flats and when we don't have much space in our homes. But most of them will be big beasts in the sense that will produce large pseudobulbs or very long leaves. And if you don't have much space, at some point it can become too much. For me at the moment, I'm at my limit with them because they are large with large leaves and I love them so much, but they fill up the space. So that's something for you to bear in mind. The second thing is pests. So they attract pests. They do, and they do it a lot. Some of them can come with snails in their pots when you just acquire them. So before you repot them, use hydrogen peroxide to prevent snails. And another thing is they do attract other pests as well. Aphids, thrips, mealybugs. And the thing with them is treating them. It's hard because of their leaves. They have so many leaves, and then the leaves, they have these sheets around the pseudobulb, so you need to go really treat everything carefully, otherwise some insect will be hiding there or some eggs. So I have a thrips infestation that I'm still fighting. Looks like that it will never end. And my Oncidiums, they suffer a little bit. They are tough as well, but I can never exterminate the insect completely because they live in between the leaves. So you need to keep an eye on pests and try to keep on top of it, because otherwise the infestation can become a large one and it's going to be hard and you may lose your plant. So that's the only thing that I've experienced that was really, really bad with my Oncidiums. But more than that, the Intergenerics, especially because they are available everywhere, the one that we found, they are pretty strong, they are tough plants. That's why they have been propagated so much in the industry. And they are lovely. Some of them has beautiful fragrance. There are people that love the chocolate orchid, for example, because of the sweet fragrance. There are other people that love some of the spice fragrance. I have to be very honest. Usually I'm not really into any of them, any of their fragrances. They are not my type of fragrance. I have fragrance sensitivity. What I love about them is their flowers. I honestly love this one. It has small flowers in a beautiful inflorescence, but I have some with larger flowers. I have color changing ones. So I have red orchids. All of them are Intergenerics, which is amazing. If you want to have a variety of orchids, Intergenerics are one of the options that can be affordable and beautiful and can brighten up your day. That's what I want to tell you today. If you have enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel, which helps me a lot. And let me know which type of content you'd like to see more here. I would love to hear more from you, and I hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.